Hey, Ray here, back at it again with an Edison Spotlight. Today we are covering a deck that is very near and dear to my heart, Ancient Gears. I'm going to be real with you, this deck isn't super complicated. It is aggro beatdown at its finest. You summon big stupid monsters, you attack with them, and since pretty much all of the Ancient Gears stop your opponents from activating battle traps or spells during the damage step, you don't have to worry about a lot of the common cards that would stop OTK decks in this format, like Deep Risen. So this is a deck where, again, you don't really think a lot, but there is some thought that goes behind the deck building, so let's go through the card by card. First of all, Ancient Gear Beast. This is a 1 tribute monster with 2000 attack, but generally you are never going to wanting to be tribute for this. Instead of tributing for it, if you have Gear Town on the field, it can be normal summoned without tribute. Now, effect-wise, this is probably the most useful out of all of the Ancient Gears in terms of effect. It negates the effects of monsters it does battle with, including in the graveyard. This means even if it does battle with something like a Sangan, the Sangan does not get the search. This also counters pretty much every face down in the format, such as, well, see, the thing is, it does not stop Gravekeeper's Spy. It's probably a notable thing to point out, but Raikou and Snowman Eater, it does. Now, Ancient Gear Gadgetron Dragon. We run this as our target for Gear Town. See, when Gear Town is destroyed, you can special summon an Ancient Gear from your deck. Now, as great as it would be to special summon Ancient Gear Golem, its first line of text reads, cannot be special summoned. That's an important thing to keep in mind. You'd be surprised how often people forget that. So instead we special summon the Gadgetron Dragon. You might be thinking, wow, we're earning 6 level 8s here. Aren't they a bit bricky? Well, you see, if we don't have anything we can do with these in our opening hand, what we can often do is pitch them to special summon Machina Fortress, either from hand or from grave, because these are high enough levels that we can use it alongside Machina Fortress's effect, which allows us to discard either itself and a machine from hand to special summon itself, because it can be discarded for its own summoning cost, which is weird, but that's how the ruling goes. Or if it's in the grave, you can just discard 1 Golem or 1 Gadgetron Dragon and special summon it back from the grave. Machina Fortress is very, very important in this OTK strategy because it is essentially a just form of reusable, it's a reusable beat stick. It's got 2500 attack, which is plenty for this format especially. It can beat over any monarch, which is nice. And on top of that, it has semi-targeting destruction. If it's targeted by a monster effect, you get to hand rip your opponent for 1, and if it's destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, you get to destroy a card your opponent controls. So it goes more than 1 for 1 in battle trades sometimes. Now, we run 2 Sidra because, again, this is an aggro deck. We want to go second. We want to just slap down that Cyber Dragon and just start attacking. Machina Gear Frame searches our Machina Fortresses, and we are always going to have machines in hand to discard special summon Machina Fortress, which is nice. We play the one-of Minefield Driller. This might seem strange, but the logic is, let's say we play Gear Town. Let's say we pop the Gear Town to trigger its effect, to special summon an Ancient Gear from deck, such as Gadgetron Dragon. Well, then we can normal summon a Minefield Driller, and if our opponent has something with higher attack, we can just crash into it, get another Gear Town, and effectively get another free 3000 attack special summon from deck, which is nice. Scrap Recycler is a very useful card. It can really help on brick hands. We use this for 2 reasons. One, you can send Machina Fortress directly from deck to graveyard. So if you have a bunch of Ancient Gear Golems clogging up your hand and you have nothing to do with them, you can normal summon Scrap Recycler, send Machina Fortress, and then special summon it by pitching those cards that would otherwise be bricking your hand. Brain Control is, again, important as a part of an OTK strategy. We can either use it as tribute fodder or just to attack our opponent, or whatever the situation calls for. Sometimes you just need to get a monster out of the way to ensure the damage gets in. Future Fusion is very fun. Generally what we're making here is Ultimate Ancient Gear Golem. which is basically just a very big monster that has the typical Ancient Gear effect of stopping your opponent from activating spell or trap cards during the damage step, which is always nice. Now, Gear Town, important thing to note here. Because of the Master Rule that Edison takes place in, you can only have one field spell on the field at once. So if your opponent ever plays a field spell, that technically pops your Gear Town. However, Gear Town is a when. It is a card that misses timing. In order to trigger your own Gear Town by playing another Gear Town, you have to set the second Gear Town, which is a bit strange, but that's how you avoid missing timing on your own Gear Town. It's something you'll learn to deal with. Giant Trunade, we're an OTK deck, we want to get rid of back row, same with Heavy Storm. Limiter removal closes out games. There have been games where I have limiter removaled during the damage step for an Ancient Gear Golem to pierce into a Raikou for game. It comes up. And it's important to note that the cannot activate spell and traps during the damage step is one-sided. You can damage step limiter removal, and they can't respond to it. Mausoleum of the Emperor. Think of this as your fourth copy of Gear Town. Sometimes, if you really have no players and you just have Ancient Gear Golems in your hand, you can just activate Mausoleum of the Emperor to pay 2,000 life points to normal summon an Ancient Gear Golem, because that at the very least gives you a 3,000 attack beta with piercing, which is usually pretty solid. Again, we're running MST because we're running all of the back row hit. Overlord Fusion is really good if you make it to late game. I say make it to late game because usually you win before then, or you lose. Overlord Fusion, you usually go into a Chimera Tech, Over Dragon, or an Ultimate Ancient Gear Golem. Usually, if you've made a few plays, you'll have the materials for an Ultimate Ancient Gear Golem, because all it calls for is an Ancient Gear Golem and any two other Ancient Gears. So if you've pitched some to special summon Machina Fortresses, you'll probably have the graveyard set up for Overlord Fusion. We run triple Terraforming, because we always want to see our Gear Towns, so we can pop them either with field spells or our own spell and trap removal to get free special summons, because why wouldn't we want that? Double Bottomless. We don't run a lot of traps in this deck because, quite frankly, we don't need to. Our deck's pretty good at just punching over things that are threats anywhere, so we're not really the type to sit on back row. We run Call of the Haunted because, again, this is an OTK strategy. Call of the Haunted taking back Gadgetron Dragon, again, might just be what wins you a game. Mirror Force is too powerful to pass up even in an OTK deck. And the same goes for Solemn Judgment and Torrential Tribute. Solemn Judgment especially, since it's our one way of negating mass back row removal, so that's nice. In terms of the side deck, it's basically just to play against matchups we lose to. We don't go super favourably with Raikou unless we have Beast, so we run double Nobleman of Crossout basically for the Raikou and Snowman Eater, and of course Gravekeeper's Spy. Light Imprisoning Mirror and Dark Imprisoning Mirror, or Shadow Imprisoning Mirror, may as well be skill drains because all of our monsters apart from Cyber Dragon are Earth. And Cyber Dragon does not care about Lightning Imprisoning Mirror anyway, so we are running these because we can. Mask of Restrict is fun because we kind of hate Monarchs. Monarchs are really annoying. We run 3 DD Crow because so many decks in the meta are graveyard heavy. Things like Light Swans that can out OTK the OTK deck. We don't always have a good answer for Judgment Dragon, so we'd rather just stop them getting to that point rather than have to deal with it. But if we really think we might have to deal with it, that's what Starlight Road is for. Starlight Road is generally good if you think your opponent's going to be running back row removal anyway, but so long as you have a Gear Town on the field, they're kind of incentivized to not go for a card like Heavy Storm as much. So yeah. In terms of the extra deck, we've pretty much gone over it. You run Chimera Tech Fortress Dragon because you run Cyber Dragon, so there's no reason to not run this in the extra deck because we don't play Synchros. Chimera Tech Over Dragon can just basically be an Overlord Fusion target that just gets extremely big and wins you the game. Same with Ultimate Ancient Gear Golem. It's just an Overlord Fusion target. And the one Starlight Road to go with the Starlight Road? getting a bit ahead of myself there, the 1 Stardust Dragon to go with the 1 Starlight Rod that we run in the side deck. Now let's do some test hands and see how many OT gearboards we can build here. Right, as always, we're gonna try out a couple test hands to show you what this deck does on turn 1. Now, this is a bit of a strange one. We've opened up Gear Town, Machina, Gear Frame, and Scrap Recycler. Well, generally, there's no reason to not throw down Gear Town, because if they haven't read the card and they, for some reason, wear Spell and Trap Removal on it, it's just a free plus. Then Machina Gear Frame is the player here, because even if this gets destroyed, we can plus off of it with Scrap Recycler Layer. Now, we are going to add the Fortress, naturally, it's the only legal target in our deck anyway. And then we discard it and Ancient Gear Golem to special summon it. Now, it is up to you whether you want to equip the Machina Gear Frame to your Machina Fortress, because what that does is it gives it destruction protection. However, if you're feeling more greedy for damage, Machina Gear Frame is an 1800 beta, which is really solid in this format. So you can just leave it out. This is a pretty solid turn 1. Next we draw Bottomless. That wouldn't really change our play as much. I wouldn't expect Machina Gear Frame to live much longer. And if that were the case, we'd just normal summon Scrap Recycler, use its effect to send a second Machina Gear Frame to the grave, so that we could shuffle them both back in with its second effect, because they are level 4 Earth machines, so they exactly meet Scrap Recycler's requirements. Then we can shuffle them into the card and into the deck, and hope we draw something that feels as smart. And there you go. Let's go again. This is an interesting one, because we can go, we have Terraforming and a Field Spell, which means we can Gear Town and then profit off the Gear Town. Or we could play the ill-advisable player, which is Mausoleum of the Emperor, pay 2,000 life points, and normal summon a Gadgetron Dragon. Then set the Call of the Haunted, just in case they out it, so we can bring it back. This is important because we can't special summon back the Ancient Gear Golem with Call, but we can with the Gadgetron Dragon, although this is playing a bit greedy. Let's go again. As you can see, this deck really isn't the most complex. Oh, okay, if we're going second, we summon the Cyber Dragon, activate Terraforming, go get a Gear Town. Yeah. Like I said, this isn't the deck you think a lot about. Most of the thoughts and debate really do come from the deck building aspect. For example, some people opt to play slightly different deck lists than the one I'm using. Some people run Gold Sarcophagus, which is generally... There's a lot of argument in the community, I find, over whether Gold Sarcophagus is really a good card, because you are very much telegraphing to your opponent what you're going to add, which gives them multiple turns to find an out and play around it. But like, if you are fetching something like Heavy Storm, sometimes it does win you the game. Here, oh yeah, I know what I do. Yeah, send this to grave, special summon this. They have no incentive to pop Gear Town, so they probably won't. So next turn I can just summon Ancient Gear Beast. And there you go. I think one more hand will do it. There's really not a lot for me to say here, but that's how this deck works. It's a lot of fun though. It's a great deck to give to a beginner. This is one I give often, because once they've given themselves a little bit of time to read the cards, they get the idea quick. Like here, there you go. The play is extremely obvious. Gear Town, normal summon Ancient Gear Beast without a tribute because we control Gear Town. Attack. That's this deck for you. You summon big monsters, you attack, and you don't think about it. And that has been Ancient Gear Machinas. Hope you guys have a great day, and remember, damage step.